Bowser Jr., everyone's favorite stubborn little Koopa kid. Sometimes he's a more rational and clever villain than Bowser, and other times he's a crybaby that needs his daddy to do anything. Today, we're gonna look at Bowser Jr.'s role in every Mario game he appears in and rank him from worthless to elite. Despite Baby Bowser making an appearance in some Yoshi games, Bowser Jr. doesn't show up until Mario Sunshine, where he's basically the main antagonist. Spoiler alert, Shadow Mario, the guy that frames actual Mario for a bunch of crimes and gets him stuck playing cleanup, yeah, that's Bowser Jr. When I saw that as a kid, I nearly shit myself. I played these games all out of order, so I knew who Jr. was before playing this and thought Crystal Mario was a cool new enemy. And realizing they were one and the same was on the same level as finding out that Santa Claus is real. A random guy gives you a present. Let's go. This magic paintbrush he has is OP. It spawns enemies out of thin air, lets him morph into whatever he wants, slows Mario down, lets him teleport away when he's caught, and opens fast travel portals. What can't this thing do? Fair enough. Okay, I get it. After this game though, he only uses it in spin-offs, and in the one game where he's on Mario's side. But here, it makes him a much more threatening enemy, and I wish he'd use it more for his schemes. This version of Jr. is the best in just about every area. He comes up with the entire plan, puts it all into effect, and it goes perfectly for him. He kidnaps Mama Peach, and Mario's stuck doing community service on the island and can't leave. Wait, if he can't leave, why don't they just take Peach somewhere else? I don't know. The biggest downside to this Jr. is that Bowser kinda tricks him into kidnapping Peach by convincing him that she's his mom. I know at the end he says he didn't believe him and knew all along that she wasn't, but I'm sure there was some point in time where he did. He looks up to his dad so much, and probably takes his word as gospel. He built and controls a giant robot version of him for crying out loud, and that's a really good fight, but him blindly following in his father's footsteps is kinda what holds him back from being the best villain he can be, and gets him all tied up in that Mario Peach drama. That's beside the point though. This is an absolute elite role for Bowser Jr. His next appearance was in Mario Golf Toadstool Tour, but since there's so many Mario sports games and spin-offs, we're gonna talk about each series as a whole later in the video. As for Mario Bros. DS though, once again, Bowser Jr. is the face of the villains. He's the one that kidnaps Peach in the beginning, drags her around the world map throughout the game, and puts up a fight in every single mid-world fortress. Now these first couple of fights are easy as piss, but as you progress, he becomes more and more of a competent foe, and by the end of the game, he's still kinda easy, but is at least somewhat formidable. Each world's end castle has a boss that Jr. himself introduces to us, so he's the one actively dealing with Mario, and it's not like Bowser's the brains behind everything, kidnap Princess, hold her in cage, not that f***ing hard. We do fight Bowser himself a couple times, but he gets turned to bones once, and Jr. somehow recovers those and brings him back to life in some giant cauldron. Don't know when he got which powers, but alright. He's a nuisance, and he's pulling the strings of everything more so than anyone else, so he's going back up in Elite. I'll talk about this one now because it's a one-and-done spin-off. Mario Hoops 3-on-3 is an awesome game, and Jr. is a playable character that's not all that special, but he does get his own stage and is a great inclusion to see, so... In Mario Galaxy, Jr. takes a backseat to his dad for the first time, and only appears once to actually fight Mario. He's on his airship blasting projectiles and sending troops of enemies after him, and it's decently challenging, but he's just kinda dancing on top of the ship and doesn't actively fight Mario like before. And outside of this fight, he only shows up a couple times to cue a boss battle, and then just goes away. Not a substantial role at all, but he's a solid enough henchman for Bowser and plays a pretty good bad guy. Just like last game, Bowser's the central threat, but this time Jr.'s got a bit more going on. This game gives the Koopalings their grand return, and Bowser Jr. is kind of in charge of them. He leads the kidnapper cake operations, pilots the airship world to world, and drops off each Koopaling to guard a castle. There's also 3 airship levels where you fight a Clown Car Jr. at the end, and these fights are actually pretty good. One gives you the propeller item block, the other gives you a frickin' clown car, and the last one ups the stakes the most by giving Jr. his biggest vehicle yet and making Mario ground pound the floor to send spiky bombs back up at him. They're some of the most innovative fights against him in the series, but still playing second to his dad makes him not quite elite. He's got almost the same role as he did in the first Galaxy, as the guy introducing new bosses to you, but the 2 times you fight him here are much better. Mega Hammer's the first one, and for as sweet as this mech looks, the way too obvious weak spots make it seem so much goofier and easier than it is. The Boomsday Machine, on the other hand, is much more impressive, but I just can't take the kid seriously when he's f***ing boogieing up in the cockpit. This is a dope fight though, but the end sends him flying off into space, and we don't actually see him again after that. R.I.P. bud, you were a solid bad guy. another individual sports game, or sports mix, and I actually had this one growing up and really enjoyed it. I know the games are super simple and use like 2 buttons usually, but I don't care. It's easy to understand and has a really nice coat of Mario paint, with fun stage gimmicks and of course a ton of beloved characters, including Bowser Jr., so you already know he's going playable but average. I'm not gonna lie, I've never actually played this game. It looks pretty interesting, but I know nothing about it, except for the fact that Junior's playable. And that's all I gotta know right now.
Introducing Propel Energy Boost with caffeine, citicoline, and Gatorade electrolyte.
Pretty interesting, but I know nothing about it, except for the fact that Junior's playable. And that's all I gotta know right now. He somehow wasn't included in any Paper Mario games prior to this, but in Sticker Star, he makes his long-awaited RPG debut, and it's nothing crazy. It's just like all his other recent roles. He's not the big bad guy, but you do fight him a couple of times, and the battles are just okay, and suffer from the mid-ass combat system this game offers. I'll give it solid bad guy tier, but it's on the lower end. This game feels almost the same as the Wii one, in more ways than one. Junior's controlling the main Bowser ship that kidnaps the princess, but now each of the Koopalings gets their own airship, and they just drive themselves to their castles to get the beat out of. You fight Junior at the end of airship levels once again, and here there's a neat submarine one, and one where he tries to break the ground from under you. After that fight though, he does something kinda stupid. He charges up that Bowser fist to crush the good guys, but winds it up for like 10 seconds so they have time to run away, then punches straight through his airship, and it goes crashing down. Now, he survives it, which is alright I guess, but that was dumb. He does try to redeem himself in the final fight though. He's right there alongside his dad doing as much as he can, and after Bowser goes tumbling down, he honorably jumps down with him. That dependence isn't a great look, but everything else was decent. He's alright, and same thing for Luigi U. He only appears in this game during an optional side quest called the Battle Ring. If you beat a bunch of foes in a row, you take on Junior as a bonus at the end, and while it's something, it doesn't contribute to the story and therefore is worthless. He appears in World 6 and 7 as a standalone boss, and once more in the final battle alongside Bowser and all the Koopalings. Once beaten, he joins the players team, so you kinda get the best of both worlds with him here. Still though, it's a puzzle game, I don't want to put him that high. He'll go with the other games where he's not the main threat, but does okay for himself. In both Mario Maker games, Junior's a placeable enemy that's as useful as the player wants him to be, and since there's not much of a story mode, that's as much as he could be. In the Wii U version though, a Bowser Jr. amiibo unlocks him as a costume, which is sick, but it's not him, so it doesn't really help the ranking. I know he is here, but he's treated like any other enemy set piece, and not like an evil mastermind, so honestly, I kinda forgot he was here. This game features the real world clashing with the paper dimension, so it gives every character a parallel version of themselves, and the two Bowser Jr.'s get along really well. They're still not in charge of the evil operation, but they're not just one of Bowser's minions either. They do their own thing for a lot of the game, ambushing Mario on their own terms and trying to break the book that merged their dimensions to prevent their separation. These two are a hell of a team, and they're a lot more involved than Junior's been recently, so I think it's worthy of another elite tier. Another one-off sports game, and this one is probably better off that way. Frickin' horseback riding. He's playable, and that's it. This game finally gives Bowser Jr. a major role again. Early on in the game, it seems like he's the main antagonist. He controls most of the rabbit enemies and creates a super powerful army of them to conquer the Mushroom Kingdom, without his dad might I add. As the plot goes on though, he loses a lot of his army, and the true villain, the Mega Bug, starts to take over, and even flaunts his unconscious dad in front of him. Shit is dark. So he teams up with Mario's crew, saves the day, and that's that. Him having to switch sides is never a great look, but the fact that he realized the severity of the situation in time to make a meaningful impact does work in his favor, and I think does enough to lock him into elite tier. He's only in the new bonus mode, but he's the playable protagonist for the only time in the series. And it's not just some 2-hour add-on, it's like an 8-hour extra adventure, and Junior's locked in as the team captain, which makes this an easy elite. When you first encounter him in the game, he gets obliterated by a pair of scissors, and has to get dragged back to some hot springs to get restored. It makes him look pretty freaking pathetic, but he does lend him his clown car after the fact, and it helps a little, but his big contribution is when Mario's trying to escape hordes of enemies in a volcano, and Junior sacrifices himself to let Mario rescue his dad and make it out. What a selfless thing to do. I can't believe he's gone. Oh, alright, cool, he lives. A terrible start and a good bounce back averages out to a decent mid-tier. He's surprisingly not in Mario 3D World, but he's a big part of Bowser's Fury. His dad is pissed for no apparent reason, so Junior teams up with Mario to try and stop Bowser's blatant rage. Mario's the one doing all the work, but Junior can uncover secrets, knock out enemies, and be controlled by a second player, which is awesome. This is the first and only time in a mainline Mario game where he's given such a role, and that's an automatic elite. Same as Mario Bros. Wii Jr. He gets a new look and some cool new abilities to bring to the arena, but is the same old, lesser King Koopa. Bowser Jr.'s got a ton going on here, but none of it amounts to a whole lot. He makes a new friend with this dude named Buddy, but that doesn't do anything for the plot, and the biggest thing that happens involving Junior is him getting kidnapped by the actual bad guys. Becoming a damsel in distress is kinda tough to talk your way out of. Worthless. For these sports series, we're going to take into consideration how many games he's been included in since his inception, and for Mario Golf, he hasn't missed a single one, so he's textbook playable but average. You'd think he'd be a Mario Kart staple. I mean, he made it into Double Dash just a year after his introduction, but this series has gypped him more than any of the others. He's not in Mario Kart DS, even though Robert is. He's not in Mario Kart 7 when the fucking Queen Bee is, and before 8 Deluxe, in the base Mario Kart 8, they forgot about him. Pink, Gold, Peach. This is why I made this tier. He hasn't missed any tennis games. There's only 2 baseball games, unfortunately, but they do at least feature Bowser Jr. He wasn't featured in the original Mario Strikers, which came out 3 years after Sunshine, but he did make it into Strikers Charged and Battle League. The latter was only through DLC, and the fact that he wasn't part of the launch roster is absurd. Almost forgot. He wasn't included in any of the GameCube entries for some reason, instead we got freaking Koopa Kid, but as soon as he got involved, boy was he playing a good role. Mario Party DS introduced him, and it's one of the only Mario parties to have a single-player campaign, and in it, Junior's the main bad guy alongside his dad. After that, in 9, he gets his own spaces on the board to f*** with players. In 10, he's guarding the boss castles, and in the others, he's at least a playable character. It took a while to pick him up, but the Mario Party series has done more with him than any of the other spin-offs, so he's going above average. There's a lot of these games, and after being snubbed in the original back in 2008, he hasn't missed a single one, so I'll keep him up in playable but average. And the final spin-off series we're covering is Super Smash Bros. And I know he didn't make it into Brawl, but being invited to join Smash is a lot harder than a Mario sports game. So getting there in Smash 4 and keeping his spot ever since keeps him in playable tier. And there you have it. Sorry about my voice, it's really gone.
On Spirit,